Have you ever wondered why, when we go metal detecting, I seem to find just as many relics as what Sean finds? And sometimes, in certain conditions, more relics than what Sean finds. You know, my ancient CTX is about 12 or 13 years old. His is like relatively new, and it's the ultimate machine. And it's always struck me as a bit weird why I seem to dig 1/3 less than what he has dug. He digs 2/3 more. He digs far more stuff. A lot of it little tiny bits of foil and bits of wire, but there's a reason why he finds more stuff and I find relics. There's a reason for it, and you watch this and you will soon find out that the reason why is it's to do with the internal workings of both machines. And you will find out now why the CTX, in some cases, outperforms the Manticore.
Okay, so today we're diving headfirst into, well, a classic tech showdown, but this one's got a genuinely surprising twist. You usually figure newer means better, right? Faster chips, better sensors. The old stuff just gets left behind.
Yeah, obsolescence. That's the usual story.
But we're looking at a situation where this metal detector, the Minelab CTX 3030, it's over a decade old, is still right in the mix.
And not just in the mix. Our sources are saying that in certain conditions, it can actually, outperform its modern successor, the Minelab Manticore.
Which is kind of wild. So that's our mission for this deep dive, right?
Yeah.
To figure out why. Why does this older CTX design still hold its ground?
Exactly. We need to look at its whole philosophy, how it analyzes targets, the stability of its audio, and this is crucial, how it actually interacts with the ground, the environment.
And the sources gave us this great analogy to start with. Really sets the scene. One machine is the hoover.
Right. Sucks everything up.
And the other is the archeologist.
Meticulous. Careful. Selected. Yeah, that analogy perfectly captures the basic difference in how they behave.
Okay, let's start with the archeologist then, the CTX 3030. Where does this seasoned machine really shine? What's its goal when it finds some metal?
Well, the CTX loves typical inland sites. Think neutral soil, maybe mildly mineralized, nothing too crazy.
Okay.
Its real strength comes from its core tech, the FBS2 multi-frequency system.
FBS2.
And this thing runs across a massive frequency range. We're talking 1.5 kilohertz all the way up to 100 kilohertz.
Wow, that's broad.
It is, and that huge spread lets it kind of integrate signals over time. It's not about a quick snapshot. It's more like it's building a case file on the target.
So stability over speed. It's not just pinging metal. It's trying to really understand its shape, its consistency, before it tells you anything definite.
Precisely. It really favors targets with structure, high conductivity stuff, solid coins, chunky buckles, thicker relics.
And how does it filter? What's the mechanism there?
It uses something called fecoanalysis, fancy term, but it basically measures both the ferrous, the iron content, and the conductive properties at the same time.
Okay.
And it compares the signal shape and stability over multiple sweeps. Is this thing holding together, or is it messy?
So it sounds incredibly methodical. What happens if it sweeps over something like, I don't know, rusty wire?
Yeah.
Or torn up foil?
Well, it acts like a really tough editor. If that signal is jumpy, erratic, doesn't have that consistent structure it likes, the CTX will either just ignore it, suppress the sound, or it gives you really unstable numbers that jump all over the place, basically telling you, don't bother digging this.
Yeah.
It has this built-in bias. The sources say it really likes objects with structure.
So it's deliberate. The payoff is confidence then.
Huge confidence.
Yeah.
One source put it like this. The CTX might sacrifice detecting maybe 10% of iffy trash targets, but you get like 99% confidence in the good signals it does give you.
Okay, now let's flip to the Manticore. The Hoover, newer tech, multi-IQ plus engine. What happens when it sweeps over that same bit of dodgy foil?
Total opposite approach. The Manticore is all about speed and maximum sensitivity. It's a generalist, designed to find everything.
Built on that newer multi-IQ plus platform. The plus meaning even faster.
Yeah, faster, and maybe a bit more biased towards higher frequencies, making it incredibly responsive. So in relatively clean ground, like farmland, that hypersensitivity means the Manticore picks up every single tiny fragment. Bits of foil, shredded cans, maybe a deep nail head.
So the user gets overwhelmed.
Totally. It could just be this constant stream of signals leading you to dig a lot more junk. Meanwhile, the CTX might just stay quiet, waiting for something solid.
The archaeologist waiting for a proper artifact while the hoover is just vacuuming up all the fluff.
That's pretty much it, yeah. At least in that kind of cleaner ground. But we have to be fair. The Manticore has its own place to shine.
Right. Where does it win?
That super responsiveness and speed. It's essential in really tough ground, highly mineralized soil, or places just choked with iron.
Contaminated sites.
Exactly. In those spots, the Manticore is brilliant at sniffing out targets that are masked by all the surrounding junk. Targets the CPX, with its slower, more integrative approach, might just miss completely because it can't get a clean lock.
Okay, so that's the design thinking. Let's talk user experience.
Oh.
I'm out there, swinging the machine. What am I hearing? Which one makes me feel like digging?
The audio. Yeah, this is a huge part of it. Trust. The CTX uses this really refined audio gating system. It actively filters out weak, inconsistent signals, like noise cancellation, but for ground noise and jumpy targets.
So it sounds cleaner.
More decisive, very deliberate, confident. When the CTX makes a solid sound, you tend to believe it. And the target ID numbers it gives, our sources call them remarkably stable.
So the confidence comes because you feel like the machine's already done the vetting for you.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, the Manticore's audio, it's described as much more open and expressive. Meaning it tells you everything, every little ground fluctuation, every tiny signal. Technically, it's giving you more data.
Right.
But often, it's just overwhelming chatter. One experienced user compared it to trying to have a serious chat in a noisy pub. Whereas the CTX feels more like it's whispering reliable info right in your ear.
But wait a second. If the Manticore is just faster and gives more info, couldn't a really skilled user learn to interpret that noise? Wouldn't that eventually make it better overall? Where does the CTX actually get an edge if it's slower?
Good question. And that brings us to the depth trade-off. It's about how long the machine takes to process, to integrate the signal.
The integration time.
Yeah, because the Manticore is analyzing signals so rapidly, constantly refreshing. It naturally excels at spotting quick, often shallow signals. Small things, low conductive targets like tiny bits of jewelry or thin coins near the surface.
Okay.
The CTX, though, with its slower, more methodical processing, it can build up a stronger, more stable picture of a faint signal from deeper down, especially if you sweep over it a few times.
So it uses that time to confirm.
Exactly. And this gives it a known, sort of proven edge on deep, high conductive targets. Think big bronze Roman coins, thick copper artifacts, maybe older silver buried deeper, stuff with substance.
So they specialize in different types of depth almost. CTX sees through depth for bigger, solid things.
Right.
While Manticore is better at grabbing the smaller, maybe shallower signals quickly.
That nails it. And this leads perfectly into the environmental twist. This is where things get really interesting and seasonal. We need to talk about soil moisture.
Moisture content. Okay. How does wet or dry dirt change the game?
It changes everything because it affects conductivity.
Conductivity, that's basically how well the soil carries the detector signal, right?
Right.
And moisture just turns up the volume.
That's a great way to put it, yep. Moisture boosts conductivity. And the key thing is, the CTX and the Manticore react completely differently to these changes because of their fundamental tech.
Okay, let's break it down. Wet conditions first. Winter, damp ground. This is supposedly CTX territory.
Correct. This is where the old guard, the CTX 3030, still often comes out on top.
Why?
Remember, it's FBS2 system. It relies on consistent soil conductivity to properly integrate all those frequencies.
Okay.
When the ground is damp, even saturated, that moisture increases the soil's ability to carry the electromagnetic energy.
It helps the signal travel better?
Exactly. It amplifies the response, especially from those deep structured targets. The CPX loves the coins, the relics. Makes them clearer, stronger.
So the wet ground basically gives those deep targets a signal boost. And CTX's slow, careful analysis is perfectly set up to lock onto that stronger, clearer signal.
You got it. It gives the CTX better depth than those super stable IDs during the wet season. High conductivity works for it.
And the flip side, what happens when that ground dries out in summer?
Conductivity plummets, and that deep target advantage the CTX had, it fades. Those faint signals from deep down become weaker, less stable.
And the CTX filters them out.
Right. They fall below its threshold for what it considers a reliable, structured signal. It gets cautious and quiet on those deep targets when the ground is dry.
Okay, so if the CTX loves the wet, the Manticore must be the king of summer, dry conditions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is where the Manticore often takes the lead. Its multi-IQ plus platform with that high sensitivity and super fast recovery speed, it thrives when conductivity is low.
How so?
Its digital processing is just better designed to compensate for that lack of conductivity. It can pick out those weaker, maybe shallower signals that the CTX might ignore completely when the ground is like concrete.
Makes sense. But what happens to the Manticore when you put it back in that wet, saturated ground where the CTX shines? Does its sensitivity become a problem?
It often does, yeah. That high sensitivity can turn into a liability.
Ow.
Because when the soil is really wet, that increased conductivity amplifies everything, not just the good target signals, but all the ground noise too.
Ah, so it gets noisy again.
Very noisy. Because the Manticore's processor is so fast and open, it just hears all this amplified ground feedback as static, chatter, maybe mixed signals that are hard to decipher.
Well, the CTX is just calmly picking out the good stuff.
In that high conductivity situation, yes.
Right.
The CTX's slower, steadier filtering produces much cleaner, more reliable results and stable IDs when the ground is really damp.
Wow, that's a fascinating signal swap. So, quick summary. Manticore gets the edge in dry summer dirt because it's sensitive enough to compensate for low conductivity.
Right.
But the CTX 3030 pulls ahead in wet winter ground because its system uses that high conductivity to boost signal strength and clarity from deep targets.
Precisely. It really proves that the best technology isn't universal. It's totally context dependent, especially when your context is the Earth itself, which changes constantly.
Okay, that brings us towards wrapping up. What's the main takeaway here for you, the listener, especially if you're trying to decide between investing in older, specialized gear versus a newer all-rounder?
I think the core lesson is, know your priorities. What are you really looking for and where are you looking?
Right.
If your main goal is speed, finding the maximum number of targets, versatility across different sites, and especially if you deal with really difficult mineralized ground or very dry conditions, the Manticore is probably the better, more adaptive choice. It's the generalist. But if you're a really serious coin and relic hunter, mostly working milder ground conditions, and you value precision, target confidence, and depth on solid items over just sheer quantity, then the CTX 3030, especially when that ground is damp and, as one source beautifully put it, alive with conductivity, it remains an incredibly intelligent selective tool.
The focus specialist, its limits are actually its strengths in those conditions.
Exactly. It's kind of proof that specialized tech, even older tech, keeps its value, not just by being slower or more focused, but because of it, because of that disciplined design philosophy.
Which leads perfectly to our final thought for you to chew on. If we stop thinking about the CTX's filtering of unstable signals as just a limitation, and instead see it as like a form of intelligent analysis, a deliberate choice not to guess or speculate on junk signals.
Interesting way to frame it. A refusal to speculate.
Yeah. What other areas of technology today, maybe AI, data analysis, whatever, might actually benefit from dialing back the hypersensitivity? From sacrificing some speed or quantity for more methodical, structured analysis?
That's a great question. When does more information just become noise? When is less, but more reliable, actually better?
Something to ponder next time your search engine gives you 10 million results you don't need, maybe.
Indeed. Seems the archeologist still has a thing or two to teach the weaver about knowing when to just be quiet and listen properly.
That's our deep dive for today. Thanks for digging into it with us.